Steinbeck. I'm here with my mom, and we're talking about the last part of the book. My last quote can be found on page 349, and it says, "And they stand still and watch the potatoes float by. Listen to the screaming pigs being killed in the ditch and covered with quicklime. Watch the mountains of oranges slap down to a petrifying ooze. And in the eyes of the people there is a failure, and in the eyes of the hungry there is a growing wrath. In the souls of the people the grapes of wrath are filling and growing heavy for the vintage." So during this chapter, again, this is one of Steinbeck's vignettes, the story within a story, kind of in the end.
He's trying to explain what's happening in his story in a bigger sense, right?
Right. So he's describing how farmers in Cali can't make a profit off their produce, so to make more money, like higher supply and demand, they get rid of some food, and they can't afford to give their food away. So he describes how thousands of immigrant families are starving from malnutrition and dying of malnutrition across California.
So let me get this. So the landowners would rather throw away their crops to raise their prices,
yeah,
than to feed the starving people that are working for them.
Yep.
That makes absolutely no sense.
Welcome to 1930s to present.
And it makes sense as far as, what we learned from economics as far as, supply and demand.
Yeah.
If you have a big supply, your price for your product will go down.
Right.
But if you have low supply, then you can drive the prices up. Like you want my wonderful peaches? I only have this many, so each one's $1.
Yeah, which is whatever.
And they probably paid the people 5 cents a bucket.
Yeah.
To collect them, and they're going to sell them for $1 a piece, right?
Yeah. Well, who knows?
I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. Even in the southern colonies, when slavery was abundant,
like in the 1800s,
they at least fed their slaves, even if it was the scraps of what the landowner had. At least they had food.
Yeah.
They were smart enough to realize that if they didn't feed their workers, they wouldn't have anybody to gather their crops.
Well, what they're playing at least at this point in the book, they're saying they want the hungry, starved workers because they'll work for nothing. They'll work for a cup of flour. So, they want people to feel like they're on the brink of death.
Like they're desperate.
Yeah, because,
the desperate will do anything that they need to do to survive.
Yeah, and, they say it multiple times in the book. If you've got kids, it's even worse because you don't want your kids to starve, let alone yourself starving. So, landowners are spraying kerosene on oranges so that people can't steal them. Beautiful food is rotting all across California. People are dying of hunger, and this is causing the migrant families, to become outraged and creates a growing wrath between the people that's there.
So wrath meaning anger.
Anger, hatred. Why is this happening? Why can't they help us? How dare they treat us this way? Kind of a feeling. So
and aren't these farmers praying to God to help them?
I mean, yeah, they are. And you saw that and another quote that I did. But at this point, it's you're so hungry. It's nothing's gonna happen. We're just desperate and sad and all the hope is gone. So. Yeah, the reason why it stood out to me was because it's The Grapes of Wrath. It's the title of the book, so it immediately caught my eye as something ooh,
ding, ding, ding,
ding, ding, ding. I should look into that. I should know why it's called The Grapes of Wrath. And I also found it ridiculous how people could be starving and landowners would ruin crops just to keep the hungry people from eating it to get more desperate workers. What effect do you think this has on the reader? What does the author want them to feel or think?
I think that this term, the Grapes of Wrath, for me at least, it made me think what's going to come next? These people are getting to their last point. they can't go any lower. They're being squeezed. Their lifeblood's being squeezed out of them as, they're trying to feed their families. That's all they want to do is live and survive and feed their families. And I think they're getting to the last nerve of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think at this point in the book, we're all going, what's going to happen to the Joad family? All these other families are dying out. All these other people are dying and disappearing. What's going to happen? We want to know what happens to these people.
I agree with that. I also think that he's trying to get the audience to feel as though they're a migrant family during this time, and
build empathy.
And like paint a picture for people who, like myself, I am very fortunate to have a meal on the table every day, and I live in a shelter with a roof on it that's not going to
on the shores of beautiful Lake Charlevoix.
Yeah,
sorry.
But I mean, like, I'm very fortunate, and I think he's trying to like get people to feel the same anger as these people did during that time period. He's trying to like make
and pull on our heartstrings.
Yeah. So, why do you think it has the effect on readers?
Oh, I think it's because we spent so much time with this family, and that it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And are they going to die? How much worse can it get before, like, they finally band together, these farmers, and say enough is enough. We're not taking your price, and you can beat us, you can kill some of us, but we're still not going to take your price because we know you're selling the stuff for a way better price than what we're getting paid for.
Yeah, so like we see that with Casey's strike.
Right.
He creates a strike where...
But he got killed.
He got killed, right. And after he got killed, the prices went back down. So instead of getting 5 cents, it was 2.5.
But that was what? A small group of people doing that. What would happen if everybody, like, banded together as a community and said, we're not going to take it anymore?
Yeah, I also want to mention that the Grapes of Wrath is an allusion to two different things. The Bible along with the Battle Hymn of the Republic. So there is a quote from Revelations, I don't know off the top of my head, that references the Grapes of Wrath. Basically, death takes the grapevines like off of the earth and throws them into the wrath of God. The wine press in the wrath of God. And that's supposed to symbolize God punishing those who are evil on earth.
And, well, these guys have sure been praying for God to do something like that to the landowners and the banks. So, when is this wrath of God going to come?
Yeah, and in the Battle Hymn of the Republic, the opening stanza references the Grapes of Wrath. It's, mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. So, Hal, the person who wrote it, uses the reference to imply what it does in the Bible, predicting the end of evil and the coming of justice. This allusion is in a way, foreshadows what is coming in the novel. Wrath of God or wrath of immigrant workers.
Okay.
So
do we get to see them, like,
rise up?
Bring their wrath down on anybody?
No. I mean, like, we see it in Casey's strike, but we never really see, like, a huge difference. I think it's more of, like, ambiguous in the novel. Like, does it happen? Does it not happen?
Or is that something that the author's giving us, like, the choice to say, will it happen? Will it not happen? To make our own determination of the ending of the book.
Yeah, and in a way, I guess he's saying, like, finally rising up, God only helps those who help themselves. So he's kind of like trying to get the people in the time period to, like, rise up and do something for themselves.
Well, that's probably why Steinbeck was criticized so highly on, this book promoting a unionized society. Even though we have some great unions that function very well in the United States now. People were very scared of unionization. They thought it was a bad thing for workers to band together to ask, to say to their jobs, we're not going to take it anymore. We want better work conditions. We want better wages.
Yeah, and like he's painting the picture of God's wrath or migrant workers' wrath, finally taking down the evil corporations, organizations that are plaguing the earth, whether it be actual evil as in God's terms, or evil as in people, landowners causing people to die of malnutrition because they're not helping each other out. So, okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Part 3 out of a 4-part series called Lakeside Discussions, where we discuss John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching